It doesn't take a single word to reveal the soul of a pontiff. Sometimes a color, a cut, a forgotten garment, or a chosen one is enough. Silent intention. What if I told you that every pope, from his first moment before the world, communicates profound truths without moving his lips? Behind the white immaculate of the papal cassock hides a secret language, ancient and carefully woven by centuries of history. It's not just clothing. It's a code, a symbol, a theological statement in the form of fabric. Each choice, a missing cloak, a silver cross, unexpectedly black shoes, reveals not only the character of the man, but the soul of his mission. Through what they wear, the popes tell us who are and what message wish to deliver to the world. But these signs are not there by chance. There are times when the clothes speaks louder than any one homily and forces us to stop, observe, and ask ourselves, what is he telling us? He's successor of Peter. Today we are going to decipher 7 moments in those who wear papal robes were more than ornament. They were statement, symbol, and sometimes revolution. Let's begin. In 2005, the world watched a new pope ascend to the throne of St. Peter. But there was a detail, subtle to the eyes of the general public, which resonated with strength among the initiated. Benedict XVI wore shoes, red shoes. They weren't a whim of fashion, nor an aesthetic wink. They were a theological statement. For decades, modern pontiffs had softened or eliminated certain traditional elements of their attire. But Benedict, a profound connoisseur of history and liturgy, decided to restore the scarlet shoes. Why? The red of those shoes do not represent luxury, but blood. It is the color of the martyrdom of the Christians who shed his life for the faith. While walking with those shoes, the Pope recalled symbolically that the path is also one of sacrifice, of total dedication, of testimony. It was a visual return to the drama of the Church, ancient, when to be a Christian could cost you life. It was also a way of resisting the trivialization of the papal role. The pontiff is not a manager, he is a witness to the crucified one. With every step, Benedict left a mark, tinged with centuries of persecution and loyalty. The shoes, they spoke and said, I am here not to govern, but to offer myself. And so, without saying a word, the German Pope reopened a dialogue between the present and the eternity. The night, from March 13th, 2013, the world was anxiously awaiting the new pontiff. When appeared in her balcony, many they noticed something strange. Not in his face, nor in their gestures, but in his outfit, was missing. The traditional red mozzetta, symbol of dignity pontifical, was absent. In his place, Francisco was introduced with a cassock white without embellishment. It was not an oversight, it was a clear message. By giving up the mozzetta, the Argentine Pope broke, from the first second, with the image of a Pope monarch. He said to the world, I have not come not to be served, but to serve. It was a deliberate gesture of humility, a silent way of stripping away of symbolic power. That night, before blessing the people, he asked the people to bless him, and he dressed like a priest. The omission he spoke of a new era. He spoke of a church less focused on the pomp, closer to the people, and in that visual silence, Francisco built a bridge toward the simple, the forgotten, and those who no longer expected anything from the Vatican. When Benedict XVI took office, the papacy, many they expected liturgical continuity, but it soon surprised with a gesture as discreet as it is profound. It changed the style of the pallium. Instead of the shorter, more decorated Roman model, he chose a long, wide one, inspired by the Eastern tradition. The canopy is more than an ornament. It represents the pastoral burden, the sheep on the shoulders of the Good Shepherd. In the Church's Eastern, its ancient form symbolizes unity with the deeper roots of early Christianity. Benedict, a lover of patristics and dialogue with the East, wanted with this change is about recovering a forgotten bond. His pallium spoke of reconciliation, of ecumenism, of looking beyond Rome to embrace the undivided Church. But in 2015, Francis reversed the gesture. He returned to the traditional canopy, simpler and more familiar to the faithful Westerners. Their message, it was also clear: closeness, understanding, identity recognizable. In that swaying of fabrics and symbols, the Church revealed his internal struggle between memory and mission, between universality and the everyday. Each canopy over the shoulders of the Pope has been a map, or points the roots common of Christianity, or the specific pastoral path that you wish to follow. And so, without speeches, two popes drew with wool he balanced between past and present. Year 1964. In the middle of the liturgical ceremony in St. Peter's Basilica, something unexpected happens. Pope Paul VI, in an unprecedented gesture, he takes off the papal tiara, the three-tiered crown that for centuries symbolized the spiritual and temporal power of the pontiff, and solemnly places it on the altar. That moment wasn't just symbolic, it was revolutionary. The tiara, used since the Middle Ages, proclaimed the Pope as Father of Kings, Rector of the world, Vicar of Christ in the earth. It was an echo of an imperial, majestic, almost untouchable. But Paul VI, deeply moved by the poverty in the world and the winds of change from the Second Vatican Council, decided to renounce that image of power. His silent gesture shouted, "The Pope is not a king." Since then, no pontiff has worn the tiara again, not even in its coat of arms. The triple crown, which for more than 1,000 years crowned the popes, was symbolically buried with that act, was a voluntary dispossession, a message to the powerful, and also an invitation. The authenticity is not imposed from above, it is experienced from below. In that altar, with a single action, Paul VI changed the perception of the papacy forever. When the world saw Pope Francis for the first time, some attentive eyes noticed a detail that was out of place with centuries of tradition. Their shoes weren't red, they were black, simple, orthopedic. Far from any ornament, these shoes, they spoke of a life accustomed to walking among the people, not on carpets of power. Francis, faithful to his identity, Jesuit, chose to continue using the same footwear he had worn as Archbishop in Buenos Aires. For him, they were comfortable, functional, and deeply meaningful. In the spirituality Ignatian, the way of living communicates as much as the words. The black shoes were not a rejection of the past, but an affirmation of the present. The Pope as a walking shepherd, not as a parading prince. Every step with those shoes were a gesture of closeness. They said, "I don't come to impose myself from on high, but to walk with you." In an institution where symbols weigh tons, Francis chose walk with the lightness of the authenticity. And in that visual silence reminded us again that the most powerful footwear is that of he who dares to step on holy ground among the men. It wasn't only once. In multiple liturgical celebrations, Pope Francis appeared using the same simple mitre that he had worn for years as Archbishop, a piece without gold embroidery, neither precious stones, white, almost austere, and many sometimes accompanied by visibly reused ornaments. For some, it was puzzling. Why the leader of an institution ancient, owner of some of the richest traditions visuals of the world, I would choose get dressed with used, because the message was clear. Continuity, not spectacle. Francisco didn't want to dazzle. He wanted to remember that his pastoral vocation did not change with the choice pontifical, that his identity as a server remains. And that, in an obsessed world with it new, sometimes the most authentic is in it old, in it simple, in it already lived. Every time he appeared with a garment marked by the time, he said without words, "I am not here not to impress, but to serve with what I have." And so, in the stillness of the modest, his figure grew gigantic, because when power is clothed in humility, it becomes truly unquestionable. Since he was elected Pope, Francis has opted by, "Do not change your pictorial cross." It's not gold, it's not cracked with stones. It is simple prata, the same as he used as a bishop in Buenos Aires. Here, a discreet image, Bompastor carrying a novella on our shoulders. In a tradition where pontiffs customarily adorned solid gold crosses, this school stood out as a rupture, or better, a fidelity. Fidelity to the idea that being a pope is not about elevating oneself, but rather lowering oneself. It's not about being a king, but about being a shepherd. The cross does not shine with metais hair. Brilhou pela coerência. That silent gesture said to the world, sou o mesmo homem, mudei de function, no de essência. And more profoundly, he learns that the heart of the Petrine ministry is not in pomp, but in companionship. Every time that cross rests on his chest, like Papa carries, he also weighs two who are suffering, two who are waiting for comfort, two who feel exhausted, to prata fala. And he says, true glory is to serve with love. Throughout the history, the popes have spoken in many ways, with encyclicals, with public gestures, and sometimes simply with what they wear. It's not about fashion or tradition empty. These are veiled messages, decisions that scream in silence. Red shoes can recall the blood of martyrs. A silver cross can embody the modesty of the shepherd. Every layer, every fabric, every absence has weight, intention, history. Because in the Vatican, that sacred theatre of symbols, even the smallest detail can reveal the soul of an era. And through these signs, the Pope reveals not only who he is, but what Church wants to model. Today, perhaps more than ever, we need read these gestures with attention, because when power is expressed without words, it becomes even more eloquent. And you, which of these symbols surprised you the most? Do you think the clothes of the Pope can change the perception of the world on the Church? Comment below your opinion. Share this video with who loves the mysteries from the Vatican, and subscribe so you don't miss the next enigmas we will reveal, because here, the hidden truths always find the light.